Hi everyone and welcome to our latest episode of Future Work World, the podcast that covers the now, next and maybes of the world of work. I'm Barry Winkless, head of the Future Work Institute, and I'm really excited today to be joined by our guest Geoffrey Allen, who is founder of Mersus Technologies, a really interesting business in the immersive technology space. Welcome, Jeff. Great to have you here on the podcast. Jeff, I just want to start by asking you about how did you get to Mersus Technologies? You've had an interesting career path. I'm going to say from analog to digital to virtual. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I guess so. Started a long time ago. First computer was 1982. As I said, went pro in 88 when I left college because Apple had given all computers to all the colleges in Ireland, and there was computers but nobody to teach them. So I started poking at them, and then just that's where the journey began. And timing is everything. So I went to the regional in Athlone, now TUS. Then that led me to NCAD, which was very Hallison days. It was wonderful, but we weren't allowed to use the computers because we weren't seniors. So I bought one and been on them since. I then got a Morrison visa, so I was away to America. And I kind of hit American shores just when type was going digital, desktop publishing.
Yeah.
I know you remember.
Just about.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I remember sitting in an office one day and somebody came in and said, could you do one of these? And I was there on my Photoshop or whatever. And I says, what's that? This is an animated GIF. I says, what's that for? And they said, a thing called the World Wide Web, you know? So that was just the dawn of the internet, you know? And as we see, that was 1994. So for the last 30 years, it's been all about content for the web per se. And but we got to remember that's all 2D, you know, and analog begat 2D, and it was amazing times actually. Like it really was. And we were at the beating heart of media in New York City, and the money was flowing, and then
Madman.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like that's for 10 years I worked in Madison Avenue.
Yeah.
I was a freelance digital producer. I digitized things. That's what I said. And then I got involved with building scholastic book clubs online. Now, doesn't mean much in Ireland, but in America, Scholastic publish all school books. So I was in charge of getting their catalogues. Basically, we made black and white to go out in 14K modem to all the schools in America, and it did away with their postage bill.
Yeah.
You know, like we're talking massive big catalogs, kind of like Argos catalog stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then they were great times. I would have digitized a lot of logos, the likes of Compaq, Viagra, Pizza Hut. I ended up culminated for me working in a place called Landor and Associates, which would be the kind of Goldman Sachs of brands. Yeah. And great times. And then all of a sudden, Twin Towers was back in the building site, literally, you know. Okay. So spent another couple of years there, then came home to the family business, which was, we were bringing in construction machinery from the Far East, and then that went south in 2008, and I was kind of, after I mopped up there, I was at a loose end, and a friend of mine said, why don't you go back into computing? You enjoyed it, you loved it. So with that, I returned to college. I went to the Houston Film School in Galway, which was brilliant. You know, like we did our MAs in digital media, and I met my co-founder. And I remember my last child was born on the Tuesday, the graduation was on the Friday, and we were there kind of looking at each other. And we said, sure, we give it a lash. So we started what was a one-stop shop for digital, because we were there like, video for mobile phones is going to be big. Yeah. And funny, I remember cold calling over 600 people and making 50, and we sold none. And everyone says, sure, who'd use those phones for searching the internet? You know. So, and that's been our journey from there. Dermot identified we went into video and animation. It was a kind of ambition of mine to have an animation studios. Yeah, kind of cool with the ladies, you know. And
not sure about the ladies, but kind of cool.
yeah. Point taken. But we were doing traditional 2D animation and Illustrator and all those packages, but it was hard work. hard work and very labor intensive. Not that the 3D stuff is any easier, but I think it morphed into Dermot came in one day, says, you know, the way we're making animations, let's use Unity, you know.
Okay.
And
that was the moment.
Yeah. And that pivoted into that direction, and we've been pretty much just exploring since. That's where the whole industry is at, really, you know.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that, right? So if I think back 15, 20 years, and it's been that long, right?
Yeah.
Virtual reality, it's going to take over, it's going to do this, that, and the other. And we're probably still at the point where, yes, it's being used, but in fairly specialized applications and ways. And that's really my question, Jeff, to get us into the VR side of the conversation. Why is that, right? So if I think about a lot of organizations that we work with in the Future Work Institute, you know, they'll have dabbled, shall we say, in some of the VR stuff, but it hasn't really gotten that. You know, we're not all using VR headsets at home. We're not really using a lot of immersive stuff, right? I know bits and pieces, there are lead innovators, etc., using it. So why is that? Why is it a case where there's so much capability in this VR stuff, right? There's so much things it can do. What's your own take on, you know, you've been pushing the VR, you know, I'm going to say the potential of VR, right, through your own business for a while. Why is it not where we think it should be?
It's very easy. It comes down to pound, shillings and pence.
Yeah.
It's cost. This is ultimately what we need to look at is media as we know it is linear, you know, in motion media, be it film, be it story, everything. There's a linear, it starts today and goes to Z. Once you give the power, that narrative to the user, which is what happens in VR using gaming engines, it's exponential. Yeah. You know, comes out the door, do you turn left or right? That's massive in storytelling, and I know the storytelling is the important, you know, and I always thought we Irish would adapt as being good storytellers, but it's hard, expensive, and the reason being, there's a technical challenge in delivering that media in frames per second. Yeah, you know. Yeah. And video would typically be 25 frames per second. VR, if you drop below 72, there's a risk that the user feels nauseous. Yeah. Because they're not used to get. Ultimately, when you're in immersive media, your brain has to be fooled into believing, hey, I'm here, you know. Yeah. And that's quite easily done. At 72 frames a second. Below that is that challenge, and that is why there's been so many false dawns for VR, and we need to look at it as XR, and what I'm saying there is Apple came into the zone last year and they're calling it spatial, you know. So just for convenience we call it XR, which embraces all the various AR, MR, XR and stuff like that. So to make that is really, really complex, and there's not many studios in the world that does it accurately, you know. Recently there was an announcement with Meta, we're looking at their enterprise partners, and people expect, every day we watch top quality James Cameron, Steven Spielberg graphics, okay? So that's the standard in the marketplace. But the reality is, to get that performance on a headset, people will struggle, you know. And the other, it's kind of a perfect storm, because as well as that, as mentioned, computing has got more and more sophisticated and powerful. And the rise of NVIDIA is all about the GPU, graphic processing unit. Back in the day, it was all done on the motherboard and the CPU. So the move in a headset is basically a mobile phone on your nose. So they're not that, well, they're very powerful for the size of them, but they need to be handling 100,000 polygons every 72nd of a second. That's our USP. Don't tell anyone, you know. But that's a challenge, you know, and we do that as well as anybody in the world. And we've learned that from the School of Hard Knocks, you know. But and that's the fun. Where we work is amazing innovation. You know, it is bleeding edge, and we've got plenty of admirers globally. You know, and people say, "How do you do that?" So the hesitancy in the market is because we're always waiting for the next big thing.
Yeah.
We're not investing in the next big thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's that risk element because it's eye-wateringly expensive. You know, now our Avatar Academy is about driving down that cost.
Yeah.
We've drastically reduced the number of people on a team to create from like 6 down to 2.
Yeah.
Our goal is to make that one person creating over the next probably 12, 24 months.
Yeah.
Time frame at current resource. I'll note. So, and that's what we feel the market need. You know, if you have to come to me every time, Jeff, I need this changed.
Yeah.
We both don't need that.
Yeah.
You know, you need to give the power, and I see the precedent set in the 2D web.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was the Irish guy over the corner.
Yeah.
What's he doing? Next thing, the stack got bigger and bigger in front of me, and like, no joke, we used to sit in the office at lunchtime and people would be gathered around because it was magic.
Yeah.
It was like Arthur C. Clarke stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And truthfully, it's kind of like that now when I walk around the studio because I'm kind of the dinosaur, you know. But the knowledge nowadays is deeper.
Yeah.
So your operator now has really, really deep knowledge around the physics engines that are gaming engines.
Yeah.
And we just touched on maybe they don't do video, you know.
Yeah.
So and it is that commitment. I always say we're trying to future proof it for our customers, and I say you need a young man or woman sitting in the corner who knows this stuff, because that eventually is going to gravitate over to that. And I know you're a great proponent of the virtual, which isn't the digital.
Yeah.
You know, I think
absolutely
that gets blended together too easily.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Jeff. And it's one of the things I was going to ask you about is, you know, you're definitely at the leading edge, and that can be a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because you're the ones that are trying to push the closed door in a way on behalf of other people. I'm interested in some of the work you guys have done with industry, right? And we don't have to name any names, but specifically around, let's call them, you know, high cost environments, right? Where that virtuality is a major benefit, you know, for people to quickly, you know, get skills-based wisdom, if we want to call it that. You know, and that leads me on to my question around the business case of VR in those particular instances, right? You know, I know in your world it's very, very clear, right? Yeah. So talk to me about those benefits, right? This podcast is going to go out to a number of different leaders out there, right? You know, you've got something that ultimately will make workers a lot more effective, right? Get them up to speed a lot quicker. So talk to me about some of the ways that, you know, you and your clients are using this, you know, current technology, and then talk about some of the positive impact that, you know, this virtual approach to learning has impacted, you know, those businesses.
I'll go further than that because we were dealing with one of the biggest in the biopharma space, and we were quoting and haggling as one does, and we got to the stage where the deal was struck, and they say, how much of this are we putting on our balance sheet? Because I think organizations in 2025 need to consider the virtual, not the digital, the virtual. And I was explaining this to one of my daughters. I was saying, I said, what's virtual and what's digital? She says, something made with computers. And I says, but really, virtual is, if you close your mind, you go to the virtual. You know? And that is, I think more industry leaders need to virtualize their organization. And the place that's the weakness is the digital twin. Yeah. Because everybody has various versions of the digital twin. And I'll be honest with you, put up my hand. I was big about the digital twin, but now I go, no, that's not the digital twin. It's a virtual twin. Yeah. Because it has to, when you land in it, just look like it. Yeah. You're not putting it on a CNC machine. It doesn't need all the geometry. And that's what it is. But if, as humans, we're visual animals. We get all 80% of our information through our eyes. So we can take in that experience and get involved. And virtual media is experiential. So, and one of the challenges is if you play some of the more advanced games, you walk around the corner and a guy goes, sticks you with a knife, you go, your mind will go, I'm dead. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And then you go, no, I'm not dead. You know, but it is that experiential aspect of it which removes the risk in very high value environments, and we can actually literally capture the tacit knowledge. And I know but that's tacit, that was earned, but we can capture the expert, and then transfer that. The headsets have kinetic sensors on them, so you can trace your fingers' motion in a 3D space. So I know you're a music man, and so if you can play Chopin, and those sensors watch your Chopin hands, we can put a novice in, and measure each individual finger, space and time. That's all taken to the cloud and back in real time. It blows me away, the technology that's off the shelf, and that's part of the perfect storm. So we have had applications in banking, in biopharma, in med tech. We're moving on now into manufacturing, because the OEM people it's a no-brainer. We worked with Boston Consulting Group way back for the stuff we did with Nibert, probably in 2018. And they said the OEMs, because you can incorporate the training, the maintenance, troubleshooting and everything in a headset for €300 that sits alongside it. Now, the investment in the setup is the upfront cost, which is the frightening bit. Is this worth X? But that costs, like everything in technology. Like you see 3D screens now, like the cost of those things is giving them away with a lucky bag, and VR will go that way. At the moment, last year, for example, Apple got in the game, Google got back in the game. And I know we're VR because truthfully, AR is yet to come. The hardware delivery expectations in the marketplace, everyone thinks they're Tony Stark or Minority Report. It's not there yet. Will it get there? Of course. So we've developed our Avatar Academy platform, which is effectively the Shopify or the WordPress, because once upon a time you need a website. We got to get specialists in HTML. Like HTML, they're not even teaching it to national school kids anymore, and the precedent is there. For me, all we're doing is entering the next paradigm, and when you look at myself as a VR producer, I have the same problems as Gutenberg, because paper was expensive and nobody could read. So you're here now, the perception is expensive. The truth is the headsets, probably the best in market is the Quest 3 from Meta. It's €300 or €320, for all the tech you get. And one of the challenges for me is it's so fluid, And but that said, when you talk about media, is about distribution. Okay, so we're now up on our Avatar Academy is on the Meta store. So we can reach 24 million headsets at the push of a button. I defy anyone who's doing that in the same mobile phones aside, but it's the same model. Only as 3D consumption. So we are capitalizing on that. At the moment, the market wants off the shelf. They do and they don't, because we're spoiled with what I call the Netflix model. No longer do you wait for Starsky and Hutch to come on the next Friday, You just go, box set, here we go, stay up to 3 a.m. And that's the marketplace, We get people, only this week we're finishing a project delivered today for, if not the biggest, the second biggest in the world, med tech company. On Wednesday, one of the guys coming and says, "Can we change that?" And we're like, "No." Do you want to redesign the gearbox on this new Ferrari? We're in that educational piece.
I suppose just touching on that, Jeff. My last question really is around the future, right? So you've kind of pointed a little bit towards the future in your conversation, in the sense that you guys are doubling down on your academy. which really, when I think about it, it's you guys are trying to create this, Lego brick concept, right, that will massively decrease the cost of being able to develop up these, well, let's call them learning experiences just for the moment, because I know that's a big competency in your business. So what do you see over the next 5 years in terms of, and let's talk about adoption, excuse me, within organizations, right? So let's forget about the man in the street, right? Get using headsets on a day-to-day basis. What do you see there, right? So, 5 years from now, what's it going to look like? You mentioned about decreasing costs in terms of some of the devices. You guys are trying to move towards this, model where it's easier to create these experiences. What does all that look like in your mind, Jeff? And where will Mersus be as part of that future journey?
Well, as I said, for myself and looking into my crystal ball, the velocity of adoption, I think, has changed.
Yeah.
We'll agree,
absolutely.
Once upon a time, ChatGPT, wow, and next thing, DeepSeek, So I think that anyone who hasn't an eye on this sector needs to focus on it, because it's like Khan Academy, education now, we're agreed, is in micros rather than the 4 full year enchilada, So, and that's going to happen. We're going to wake up some morning, and I point to some sectors. Now, we're very much Mersus focused on very, very niche sectors. Yeah. But when this goes en masse, it's a matter of time before, say, the Food Health Authority or Safety Authority goes, hey, HACCP training. And I know people say to me, sure, you can get HACCP training on the web for $20 a pop. And I'm there like, you can. But can you tell me, we're working on biometric login and multi-user. So can you say, I can assure you that Barry did his training at 2:30 on Tesco's in Dunleary. I can offer that, and a cert is finished to say it's ready to go. And that's valuable. And as we know, first mover advantage, the scalability is to be phenomenal. I see our model has been to keep it quite compact rather than to get into specific verticals. And because we're about the technology. It's not that I'm against customers, but they're
useful.
I'd love to say they pay the bills, but what I'm saying is we're following that thread down a rabbit hole around the technology, and we see, as we do a lot of work in the neurodiverse and with young people, because they're the future. They take it like ducks to water. I remember doing a demo here in Dublin one day. I put down the headset to get batteries and controllers. I turned around, the young lady said to me, is that it? She'd burned through my life's work, and that's the truth. I don't, my staff are all pretty much 20 years younger than me. It's their media. I'm still on the book, and that is the truth. They are adopters, and even talking to people in government who go, this industry 5.04. The bottleneck is the management in the decision making. And of course that's down to pounds, shillings, and pence too. But the innovation and adoption is about risk. And fear of failure is always hanging over a cloud. Maybe shareholders twiddling the thumbs and staring at you, But you got to get out there and try, because I remember sitting in a very 4 black walls and a grey floor in Manhattan, going, "This computer stuff is really, really going to shake up the industry, lads." And when you see the training applications we're doing is reducing training by 75 to 80%. Not 75. Part of it is people don't believe. Small software company and that alone, how are they doing that? But the truth, and you've
been doing it a long time, Jeff.
5 years of data,
exactly.
So it's about dabbling, and we are in the education part of that curve, and that's what absorbs most of my time. I don't mind it because I hate seeing waste. I can give you examples of companies who we part educated. I'd say they took different options, and when they came back, and I'm not one to say I told you so, but it's I've seen six-figure amounts wasted
Yeah.
on poor media that had to be thrown out.
Yeah.
Like the customer was there trying to explain to me, oh, we can use it again. And they're like,
Yeah. It's a bit like any gold rush. You know, there's a lot of players, shall we say, that will fall by the wayside and, you know, provide, you know, lower level of quality, shall we say, than what's needed.
Well, one of the big things in the industry, and it's widespread, is a lot of these, and definitely throughout Europe, in Germany and France, they're subcontracting this into India.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But how many Bollywood Academy Awards has there been? Do you, no disrespect to Bollywood. Yeah. But the truth is, the Western aesthetic, and it's back there, it's all up here. So that's what the market wants. George Lucas.
Yeah.
You know, and George Lucas is fine on 2D. And even gaming hasn't really got to grasp. Now, I was actually asking somebody, there's Beat Saber, you know, that's a good game. But the Tom Clancy Half-Life Eve is pretty good. But you know, the breakthrough games aren't there yet because they're eye-wateringly expensive.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I understand.
And I think that is a choke point. But like when you look, we're down to, we've reduced it by 75% the amount of resource going into it on our side. We believe we can get that down to 98% from when we started over the next year or two.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So Geoffrey Allen, thanks very much for Mersus Technologies. Guys, please check the company out. They know what they're about when it comes to VR. And thanks very much, Jeff.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Thank you. It's the end of our Future Work World podcast. Obviously, you all know that you can follow us across all popular channels from YouTube to Spotify and everything in between. Before I finish, just a little plug for my new book, Future Work World, which should be launched in January of 2026. We'd really appreciate if you support me on buying that book, so thank you very much in advance. And with that, guys, thank you very much indeed for listening, and talk to you soon. Bye.